Hey, this is Dr. DenBoer coming at you with a video for Veterans Day on the risk of PTSD and the relationship between post-traumatic stress disorder and dementia. So post-traumatic stress disorder, or what people normally refer to as PTSD, and dementia have what is called a bidirectional relationship. That means that each condition can increase the other condition. For example, if you look at these cumulative rates of dementia, they were significantly higher for veterans with PTSD than those without PTSD. So those with PTSD had a 7-year cumulative, so a rolling incidence rate increase of 10.6%. So they were 10 times more likely, not exactly the terminology, but they were about 10 times more likely to have higher incidence rates of dementia than those without PTSD. So they compared that in this study to veterans without PTSD, and they had this 7-year rate increase of 6.6%, and they found that that was statistically significant at the 0.001 level. More on that later. So the NIH also had a study here that I'm looking up here, and they found that the median, they kind of examined generally the rates of PTSD in individuals returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, and they found that the rates were 17% higher. And then when they looked at individuals that had with Vietnam experience in that war, they found that those veterans were found to have a 20 to 30% lifetime prevalence of combat-related PTSD, and that they had significantly higher rates in that cohort of individuals with dementia. So they found that that was a much, much higher significance. So in these studies, they looked at predominantly males, and they looked at those diagnosed as having PTSD. Essentially, in the end, we're at a twofold, so 2 times higher risk of developing dementia compared to those without PTSD. And there's a variety of reasons why that the authors give, some biological, others psychological, but one of the main reasons that has been generally found is that if a higher risk of stress is associated with a higher risk of heart disease, and ultimately cardiovascular changes that lead to a more vascular form of dementia, and that vascular form of dementia underlays other forms of dementia as well. I don't say this to sort of have a downer, but I do celebrate this on Veterans Day, and I do thank the veterans very much for all the service that they have given. It's extremely valuable service. Essential service, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Have a great Veterans Day, everybody. Thank you to all for your service and in memory of those who served.